Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. The Retail Grocers Association has made it clear, should the announced addition to the Breadbasket price control list happen, it will result in more than 4,000 jobs. The retailers say the entire industry stands to be hit. They've been in meetings with Prime Minister Davis since about 5 o'clock this afternoon, and someone who works closely with the association, in particular the Grand Bahama members, C. Alan Johnson, joins me right now on the show. C. Alan, good evening to you. It's good to have you on Beyond the Headlines this evening. Hi, C. Alan, can you hear me? Are you there? Okay, we're going to just wait for him to get his audio situation. If you are muted, unmute yourself, please, and let me know when you can hear me. This meeting has been in progress since about 5 o'clock. There are members, roughly some 14 of them. I think there are over 100 members, if I have my facts right, but there are about 14 of them or so in meetings with the Prime Minister really all afternoon. I'm sure Michael Alkitis is a part of those meetings and many other persons. And what the industry is saying is, listen, when you go add those 38 food items to the price control list, it is more than 38, number one, because, for example, the example was given last week about chicken when we spoke with the president of the association, Philip Benaby. Chicken is spread wide, and it comes in many different categories. And so they're saying right there that several areas that you are putting and lumping them all into the price control list. And so we are going to speak now with C. Allen, who has been in close contact, particularly with the Grand Bahama members and also the wider organization. Are you there, C. Allen?
Yes, I am. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, absolutely. Good evening. Thank you very much for joining us. Is the meeting still in progress?
I have not been able to find out whether or not they are, but I can tell you that the owners and the managers are very concerning what is going on. In fact, the government of the Bahamas made a decision last night, which I guess they would be updated on, to suspend the penalty phase of non-compliance in regards to the price control for the 38 items. Let me correct, though. In speaking with them, they said that it is not 38 items, it's 38 categories.
38 categories.
Yes, or something of that sort. So, right. So when you say cereal, or you say something of that sort, like if you say baby cereal, it covers all different types of baby cereal. I'm looking to see at the list, and because it basically say ketchup. And so remember, ketchup has a lot of definitions of ketchup. So each of these has a broader reach than a single item in regards to it. What has happened, though, is that there's a product list that a lot of them have 3, 4, 5 months orders that they're already committed to a price structure in which the items have not reached the island yet, as well as having stock within their stores. And so the major problem that they are seeing is immediately in the meeting, because, while we were on the air yesterday, the Grand Bahama Port Authority Grand Bahama Port Authority give notification that they're going to allow the Grand Bahama Power Company to also invoke a rate increase in spite of giving them one.
That was just wild when I saw that. In fact, it's even in the papers today. What are business owners even saying about that? And these ones who are saying, wait a minute, man, you trying to take away profit from our entire inventory now, and now they have to pay high electricity bills.
Yes, and so what is happening is they said they were just adjusting. This is where Grand Bahama, more specifically, Grand Bahama, because you probably just had a pause because the government was subsidizing BPL. So Grand Bahama had the increase in January. And so essentially they were adjusting across the platform concerning their costs. Now their concern is that effective on November 1st, you now have this new increase to the electricity rate. And then beginning in January, you have an increase to their payroll. A lot of these businesses, at least not a lot, but some of the businesses that I've spoken to said that they basically have some people on hire for the mere sake of helping the economy, and said, but they have to now look to stretch the power bill as well as their payroll. They may have to consider cutting back hours or whatever amount. So I can only assume that the larger companies will have a greater impact, because if you have 10 employees, you have a $25,000 impact immediately in payroll. Now, here's a point that a lot of people miss. When the government raised payroll, and they didn't just raise payroll for those individuals making $210. They raised payroll for every single person making less than $260. And so we keep thinking it's only the individuals for 210, which the government refer to. But if you are making 225 or 230 or 240 or 250, you also went to 260. The impact concerning these businesses, they have different tiers of employees. And so you may have an employee just coming in at the beginning. One is at 260, and each tier has a different definition based on how long they've been in skill as they move up the chain. So immediately when you begin to move the bottom tier, a 24% increase, 23.81, around the 24% increase, they have to now take consideration to giving increase at every single tier within their particular business, because each tier has a certain amount of enumeration above the lower tier. And so they're now trying to think, how do we adjust this type of environment? Because Grand Bahama have not seen any economic growth in well over going on 2 decades now. Mm-hmm. And so we've been waiting for the promised plans of action. And I know a lot of people talk about the hotel, and they says the hotel is going to open and the airport is going to open. But we must remember, before Dorian, the hotel was open and the airport was open, but we were still in an economic depressed type environment. So the hotel and the airport is not the solution for the Grand Bahama economy. And so we are waiting to hear now from the honeymoon period for this administration is over, and Grand Bahamians are now looking to say, okay, there must be a greater plan that's going to be revealed for Grand Bahama to sustain both the impact of the electricity and now this impact of wages. Now, we have to take in consideration that a lot of these people who people may keep on even at part-time or full-time, it is being done as a brothers keepers type environment.
Right, say, and trying to just keep people with something coming in weekly or however, whatever the payment schedule is.
And then you have the homes where one person may be in the house making $250 a week. And so it's going to be extremely hard on the Grand Bahamian families if that person has reduced which I guess will remain at $250. But at the same time, the price of goods are going to go up, the electricity bill is going to go up, and everything else without any type of major offset. So we want to know exactly what is it that we're going to offer. Are they going to bring a couple of ministries here? Are they going to be talking about digitization of the economy? Are they going to bring, highlight that here? But we need a little bit more than a promise of an airport and a promise of a hotel.
How far-reaching are the proposed 38, as you say, categories, but additions to the Breadbasket items list? How far-reaching is it?
In Grand Bahama, individuals who are already buying less of what they have. I would put to you that the government, if you talk about the government where it says families are skipping meals or a person is eating one in each 4 meal, that's a normality on Grand Bahama because it's just eating for subsistence and I've known families that sought out social services that got $147 a month for a family of 4. And that has to last for the whole month. So you have parents who would actually skip a meal so that their children can eat. And this is the situation on Grand Bahama right now. Yes, it is. And so now you have where a dozen eggs, like I told you, is $7 or more. And now you have, and this is just from inflation. This is before the impact. And I know there's a slight variations in the government list for the eggs. They actually went up from 23% to 25% on the eggs in this so-called 38 new items. But when you begin to look at the other things that's on the list, here's what they have told me from talking to members in the food store. They have an algorithm. And they have lost leaders, etc. And you have to understand these stores are not in the business for losing. So as they begin to lose in one particular area, mm-hmm. they adjust their algorithm to insert pennies or whatever across other products. And so if this is enforced, even though these are what they consider these so-called new breadbasket items, what then happens is that they will then shift to the meat. They'll then shift to these other things that's not protected. And so again, no matter what, the money will come out of the people's pocket. So there has to be a greater strategy than what is being offered. And I know because I do programming, not necessarily for stores here, but I've advised people who does on how to spread a matrix across the store so they don't operate at a loss. And
well,
so I can only assume they do the same thing.
Well, that meeting is still ongoing right now. In fact, we are learning here and Beyond the Headlines. But let's talk about the hardball that grocers are saying they are willing to play. For example, one of them is they are willing to say we will refuse social services coupons. Can you speak to that and other things? And for example, not even bring in staple items or any items on that list because it's going to hurt them so much.
Right. I know I spoke to one grocer who simply said that they will do an evaluation of the cost factor and certain items will simply just be dropped from the store because they said already they have a squeezed inventory where if you go into the food store here in Grand Bahama, there is a lot of empty shelves. And so they said the last thing they will do is bring in a loss, something for them to lose on unless it's an absolute. So they're going to begin to look at this spread and says, what could I take? What could I sell? I could take a loss on. But when the people come to buy this product, they will maybe pick something up to offset the loss that I take on this. So you may have a lot of things on the list. Remember now, you have like, say for instance, you have soap. You go inside the food store, you may find 6 or 7 soap. And I asked them, and just curiosity, I asked them with the soap. They said, well, you may only find 1 soap or 1 brand of soap or 2 brand of soap. Wow. So they will then begin to reduce their particular inventory and then I guess force sell the other brands until it actually goes out of the place. The biggest problem with this is that, and I know it may have been intended for New Providence to make up for the BPL environment, but what is happening now is you can't pass a law for New Providence and not for the entire Bahamas. And so we are now taking an indirect hit basically because of the major population. And I've spoken to a grocer in Long Island, and they said that they might just close their shops. They'll just basically close their store.
So some are already talking about possibly having to just shut their doors if this really does go through.
And on Grand Bahama, where the social services coupon, if you have individuals then begin to reject the coupon where literally hundreds if not thousands is on it. And so it's impacting the senior citizens because remember, when these prices go up, pension is not going up, national insurance is not going up, whatever it is they're getting. And so this is going to impact them. Then you begin to remove product out of it, and then you start saying you're not going to take social services coupon. That even creates a greater hardship because those families literally depend on that $80 and $100 and $140 per month to actually feed themselves. And so it is a cascading. I think this has what is unintentional consequences that maybe the government did not put too much of a thought into. And I think they should actually rethink this.
Well, CA, if you hear the grocers tell it, they were not consulted. There were no meetings in advance of or ahead of that announcement. I mean, should that have really played out that way to catch all of them off guard?
I think this took the same strategy that the government does when they do the rate increases or during the budget debate, where they just put it out there. Because, again, if you know that the government is going to set a threshold, but they can't set a threshold on anything you have in transit, I would order a whole lot of things before it is impacted, which would allow the pass-through. But a lot of these individuals already have up to 6 months supply in the chain because they were already anticipated food shortages. So what they wanted to do was to try to make sure that they had a guaranteed supply that's going to flow to them. And so even though the government is saying it's a 6-month trial, these individuals already have 6 months of goods already in transit to them. And so if they were forced now to make adjustment based on the price they already have, then it could impact a loss type situation because, they don't have control of the internet. Like I said, we import inflation. They don't have control of the marketplace. And there's a blending. See, this is not just these products. When you look at the technology, how technology is done, some things is loss leader. It's a balance. You anticipate that at the same time you buy Pampers, you buy baby formula. And so now you have now impacted baby formula and Pampers as part of your protection regime. So you can't lose on one and make on the other. Now you have to decide maybe to lose on both. And so when you begin to look at it, so I think what they were saying is that had the government speak to them, they could have told them in real time based on the flow going through their stores where they gave some recommendation. And I'm somewhat perplexed that I would think that the government would be having access to the data of the inflow that's in. But I guess the government would not have the data concerning the true markup within the store. So it just arbitrarily set these particular markups. This is a data problem that they just seem like no data was used in its execution.
Yeah, these business owners, roughly 4,000 people are directly employed in this industry. And of course, we know the spin-off and the mushrooming of that. But they're saying those jobs are on the line.
Yes, because what happens is we have to understand that you have delivery people that comes in. You have people that put products on the shelves within there. You have air conditioning people. All of these people that service these institutions. These are not standalone, inclusive type environment. You have people that service these, from cleaning to various different things that they provide to the store. And so this will have a cascading effect across the economy. And so my slip of mind is that. But when you was talking about let's come back to it. It kind of slipped my mind just now. But we have to look at these. Believe it or not, the minimum wage increase nor the price increases would have been as impactful had we had economic growth. Remember, we have not recovered from Dorian or Grand Bahama, and at the same time, we have the inflationary aspect and the hit from COVID, where we were locked down. So we have not made 100% recovery of the whole Bahamian economy in general. And so here it is that we are not at 100%, but we're being impacted with both of these hits. Unemployment is high. Underemployment is also high. And then now you have electricity bill and an impact on food services. And so the question then becomes, where's the middle ground? And that's the discussion I'm hoping that they're having tonight. The most important thing, though, is that if the government does not have ideas for the economic growth, I think it's incumbent upon now that all of us as a collective now come together and begin to have discussion as to what can be done. The government lists about 12 different, I call it the crayon economic plans: red, green, blue, aquamarine, silver, green, knowledge economy, digital economy, conceptual economy, data economy, all these different things. And so if we could actually have a discussion concerning how do we create the infrastructure that's needed for these to happen, for instance, the orange economy, which is culture and heritage. And how do I think we touched on this, the fact that tourism model has changed. We are now in what is called the fifth social revolution, meaning everything the way we used to do it has changed. The tour ships has been changed. The way people will come to bed and breakfast and out islands and everything changes. But we have not changed. And so maybe we need to have a discussion on how do we tap into these new transition of these new economic models, no matter how small it is. The effect that we can have in the economy is great. Grand Bahama is poised. And Grand Bahama is poised for almost any type of economic model that you have. But let me say this to you, as a person that specializes in the digital economies, energy is our Achilles heel. Because the rest of the world that we're competing with and trying to get businesses here are paying 6 cents or less. And so, yes, we're talking about this so-called carbon economy and the green economy. This is the time for the government maybe to consider even subsidizing or pre-financing or whatever to shift the green energy to green type energy, taking into effect that the United Nations itself somewhat laughed at our 30% goal because they're simply almost implying that we could achieve even more. And so what it would do if we actually move to what green energy and microgrids, etc., and allow businesses in some form of cooperative to get off the grid. Those very same food stores and etc.
Right. I want to ask you about the food stores, because the reason the Prime Minister introduced this temporary, in fact 6 months breadbasket addition, is to bring some relief to the Bahamian people, as you very, very astutely noted. What's happening in Grand Bahama, parents are going hungry and having maybe one meal a day so that their children eat. I imagine that may be the story elsewhere as well. Inflation has hit hard in the Bahamas, and many people are underemployed, some unemployed. And so then the question is, are grocers heartless and unthinking and not considerate of the Bahamian people who are really feeling the pinch right now? How do you address them to make them understand why grocers are taking this position?
This is where the conversation should have. Okay, this is where the Prime Minister should have used the opportunity, or even use it tonight, to have a conversation on net zero. Net zero, not in the sense of energy, but net zero in the sense of how do you operate a business without profit? Because remember, the problem with businesses, they're now paying on their gross. They pay taxes on their gross. So if they could show where they are operating at a net zero, which then basically said, I will operate my business at net zero, meaning I will make no profit, but I will suffer no losses for 6 months. It then allow them to have a direct pass-through of food and items directly through to the people, rather than simply forcing it down their throat. Because you could simply say, if these people don't have resources, they're not going to buy from you anyway. And so the whole sense then is, let's have a net zero regime on these products, on everything else. And basically, then the government, whatever revenue source, because remember now, consider this, just speaking of revenue source, the government loses nothing in this regime. The government makes no sacrifice. They're going to get their 10% on all of these prices. They're going to get anything. There's no give from the government. Mm-hmm. And so if the government really wants to help beyond the social safety net, let's have a discussion concerning a net zero regime for which technology allows us in real time to authenticate what is being paid for these things and what are these things being selling for, and then basically look at how we can maybe pause or reduce the impact on the business tax in that respect.
I thank you very much, C. Allen. Of course, we're going to continue to monitor the outcome of that meeting. That meeting is still ongoing right here in New Providence at the Office of the Prime Minister, where the Retail Grocers Association are meeting with Prime Minister Davis to try and come to some middle ground. And we will see how that all pans out.
Yeah. Before you leave,
30 seconds.
30 seconds. The fast foods are impacted by this also, because a lot of the things they use is still a part of their food products. And so they are impacted, and a lot of them buy their stuff locally also. So it has a cascading effect.
So fast foods as well?
Yeah, no, the fast food places, this is for all businesses. They buy lettuce, they buy tomatoes, they buy consumables. They do. So if the people stop carrying it or have a price increase, they have to now take into consideration the impact on them too, as long as the food store.
Absolutely. I tell, so the domino effect then, we're now realizing exactly what this all means. C. Allen, yes. Hey, we will continue to follow this story. Perhaps on tomorrow evening's show, we'll look at it again. But thank you very, very much for just explaining some stuff and giving us some further insight on this whole issue with the grocers standoff with the Prime Minister and the government. We will continue to follow this. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for joining us this evening.